He carries with him a stunning degree of raw sexual magnetism. As a larger man, Molina really carries his massive appendages, moves deliberately with a menacing cool, and delivers one-liners in a sultry arch tone. The physicality of the role also plays into it, with Octavius in an open trench coat with his titties out and a bit of his paunch hanging over the metal tentacle corset around his waist, letting us really take in the beauty of his body. Here's looking at you, you beautifully thick king. Welcome to a video that no one asked for. It was 2021 and the trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home had just been released. In preparation for the movie, I rewatched the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy probably for the first time since I was a little kid. I didn't remember much about these movies, so I was completely unprepared for the brain chemistry altering performance of Alfred Molina in Spider-Man 2. I was never really one to simp over fictional characters, but Dr. Otto Octavius awoke something in me. Judging by the magazine article I just read from, clearly I was not the only one. But whilst many people got caught up in this wave of thirst for this comic book villain, just as many were asking, why? Why Doc Ock? He's evil, he's old, he's fat. Is it the tentacles? Well, it's not the tentacles, but it's really the whole package. Ren, you say, in your last video, you just said you were gay, and now you're making an entire video about thirsting over a guy. Are you a liar? Are you just posing as a member of the Rainbow Brigade for woke points? First of all, when I say I'm gay, I'm using it as an umbrella term. I'm bi. B, sexuality is a complicated thing, and I don't have to explain myself to the likes of you. And Quattro, look at the rack on this man. I love him in a very queer way. Now, my attraction to Doc Ock may be a bit unorthodox, but I'm hardly the first person to have unchristian thoughts about a fictional villain. But why? Why are people attracted to villains? Because women like assholes. It's true, the nice guys were right, girls enjoy being mistreated. Wrong! There are many theories about this phenomenon. It can't simply be a matter of objective physical attraction, otherwise more people would go for the roided-up Australian space himbo with Rapunzel hair instead of his Weasley, unwashed, twinky little brother. I'm not saying there aren't people who prefer Thor to Loki, but the gender-fluid god of mischief definitely has a fan following. According to a think piece from the American University of Paris, one reason people may be attracted to evil characters is the fear factor. A feeling of fear can cause a rush of adrenaline, which may translate in the brain as a feeling of attraction. You know, when I was a kid, I couldn't watch The Phantom Menace because Darth Maul scared the bejesus out of me. I couldn't even look at a picture of him. But recently I watched the Clone Wars cartoon for the first time, and to get out more. Another idea is that theoretical attraction to a fictional baddie allows for a healthy exploration of dark romance. Realistically, we all want a happy, healthy relationship, but isn't there something a little tempting about darkness sometimes? Like, sure, Mal is sweet and handsome, and he's your best friend, and you'd always be safe with him. But Alexander... The kind of villains that attract people are cunning, strong-willed, and often very forthcoming about their desires, which can be very attractive qualities. A popular quote from a dark romance novel by author Renee Rocco that gets passed around is, "A hero will sacrifice the person they love to save the world, but a villain will sacrifice the world to save the person they love." The idea of being someone's number one priority, especially when many people feel unappreciated and ignored both in and out of relationships, can be a very enticing form of wish fulfillment indeed. And while we're here, I'd just like to say, if you do feel attraction to morally gray or even straight up evil characters, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, because these people are not real, and therefore their crimes have not hurt anyone. I am not talking to the weirdos who eroticize actual, real-life serial killers, your Ted Bundys, your Charles Mansons, your Rock Turows. These are people whose actions have had real-world effects and whose victims' families are still alive and can see the disgusting things you say and do in holding up these monsters as heartthrobs.
You're not affiliated with me!
It should be noted that most of the examples of sexy villains I'm using here are conventionally attractive white men. It speaks to an aspect of our society that we tend to overlook or even straight up deny the evil people who match this description perpetrate. They tend to be given a lot more grace and leeway than we would allow women or people of color. Wanda Maximoff has done some bad things, but are her actions really any more detestable than those of someone like Loki? People clutched their pearls over the events of WandaVision when Wanda held an entire town under her psychic spell for maybe 2 weeks, but they tend to forget that Druig from the Eternals did the same thing to his own village for centuries. But he's nice to his girlfriend, so people let it slide. Someone on TikTok sagely pointed out that if the actors for Finn and Kylo Ren were swapped, Finn would be held up by the fandom as one of the greatest characters of the entire franchise, while Kylo would be rightly despised as the fascist incel that he is. And Finn is one of the good guys. Now, back to my evil white man. Dr. Octopus first appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 3. In creating the character, Stan Lee said he just had an idea for a villain with extra arms who was called Octopus. Despite rising to be one of Spider-Man's 3 main villains, it was clear that Doc Ock was supposed to be kind of pathetic. He was short, overweight, clearly a nerd. He grew up with an abusive father and being relentlessly bullied at school. His greatest strength was his massive intellect, as he is one of the smartest characters in Marvel, right up there with Tony Stark and Reed Richards. Octavius built the AI-controlled arms as a method of working in circumstances that would be harmful to a normal human, but a lab accident caused the arms to become permanently fused to his body, and the incident forever changed Otto's brain chemistry, leading him to a life of crime. While the arms made Dr. Octopus a formidable enemy for Spider-Man, his real greatest weapon was his cunning mind. It was Octavius who formed the Sinister Six to fight Spider-Man, eventually taking on the additional moniker of Master Planner. The tragedy of Otto Octavius is that he probably would have gone down in history as a hero if he had used his mind for good instead of evil. As with a lot of people who grow up feeling victimized, he decided to make other people his victims instead.
It's a wicked world. And when a clever man turns his brain to crime, it's the worst of all.
However, in recent years, comic writers have seen the potential complexity of the character, as Otto has become something of an anti-hero. The Superior Spider-Man run by Dan Slott saw Octavius actually become Spider-Man for a short time. A dying Octavius pulled a Freaky Friday with the body of Peter Parker, who shared his memories with Octavius, the moments that made him become Spider-Man. Octavius was so moved by these memories that not only did he vow to protect New York as Spider-Man, but to be a better Spider-Man than Parker ever was. Eventually, Parker's spirit comes back, and Octavius officially died. Since then, partially due to some shenanigans with Mephisto, Octavius has come back to life and flip-flopped between villain and anti-hero. There, that's a bare-bones character synopsis of Doc Ock. Outside of the comics, the best-known version of him is, of course, Alfred Molina. But before I get to him, let me give a little recognition to some other notable versions. The version in the acclaimed PS4 game is voiced by Rigby from Regular Show. This Otto plays into the Octavius as a mentor/father figure to Peter Parker trend that seems to have started with Spider-Man 2. Also in this version, Otto is former business partners and close friends with Norman Osborn, but he quickly turns on them both when he becomes Dr. Octopus and is the final boss of the game. Then there is the extremely popular Olivia Octavius from 2018's Into the Spider-Verse, voiced by a pre-Agatha Harkness Catherine Hahn. Someone at Sony really said, what if Doc Ock was a science MILF? And then there is Otto from the short-lived but absolutely genius Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon, which aired from 2008 to 2009 for 2 quick seasons before it was cancelled in its infancy. This Otto is voiced by Peter McNichol.
It's Vigo! You're like the buzzing of flies to him!
And he is 5'0", built like a mini fridge, and is the most adorable thing pre-accident and oddly scary hot post-accident.
Silence! You imperious moron!
Mark me down as scared and horny.
Despite how short the series is and how many villains they managed to cram into 26 half-hour episodes, the show does a good job of portraying both the vindictive victim of bullying and master planner aspects of Otto. I have a special attachment to this character in particular. Foreshadowing is a literary device in which, okay, now we can talk about Alfred Molina.
You don't want a character with 8 legs who's trying to kill all the good people in the movie ugly in any way, do you? I mean,
No, you don't.
he was ugly. He was a terrifying villain.
Keep my man's name out your mouth.
Molina's Otto can be seen as 2 different characters. There is Otto Octavius, and then there is Dr. Octopus. Otto was built to be extremely sympathetic, so when he is overtaken by his evil persona, the change is supposed to be jarring. In many ways, he's a foil for the previous film's villain. Norman Osborn was a greedy capitalist working to build bigger and badder weapons for the military, and was a shitty father to boot. On the other hand, Otto's life's ambition is to create a cleaner form of energy. A climate change king? In 2004? We stand hard. Otto definitely voted for Al Gore. And he's set up as a paternal figure to Peter Parker, a kid he just met, which just proves how kind and caring he is. In some additional material for Spider-Man 2, it was revealed that Otto and his wife wanted children but couldn't conceive, so Peter really is the son they always wanted. Speaking of Otto's wife, Otto just really loves Rosie. He adores her. This man chugs his respect women juice on the daily.
But if you want to get a woman to fall in love with you, feed her poetry.
Why don't they make men like this anymore? That's Otto. Then there's the Doc.
It's cuffing season, now we got a reason to get a big boy. I need a big boy, give me a big boy. It's cuffing season, all the girls are leaving to get a big boy. I need a big boy, I want a big boy.
Is it warm in here? Is the air on? The film presents the Doc Ock persona as the result of having his brain taken over by the ARM's AI, but is he completely out of control? Or are the ARMs simply giving him the freedom to unleash a darker side of himself that he never dared explore before the accident? The idea that lurking under this nice, non-threatening, cozy exterior was always a ruthless, cold-blooded badass is compelling, to say the least.
No, I'm not a criminal.
The next morning.
Butterfingers.
You really fell tits over ass into this whole evil villain thing, didn't you, bud? Molina returns as Otto in No Way Home and spends most of his screen time being a grouchy old dilf. Once Peter repairs the inhibitor chip, however, he is back to his old, kind temperament, eager to help save the other villains. There's a certain paradoxical appeal to him in that he's strapped with these giant killing machines sprouting out of his back, and yet the man himself gives you this feeling that you'd be perfectly safe with him. That's one of the main appeals of villains in general. They'd hurt anyone to achieve their goals. But they'd never hurt you. You're special. When I tell people that I'm attracted to Doc Ock, I usually get one of 2 reactions. Is it because you're into tentacle stuff? And why? He's ugly and old and fat. I'll leave the answer to the former to your imagination, but let's focus on the latter. First of all, attractiveness is subjective. Personally, I think Alfred Molina is quite handsome, but also I'm more attracted to unconventional beauty. Sure, I think Chris Evans and Michael B. Jordan and Pedro Pascal are pretty, but they're also kind of boring looking. There's a famous essay critiquing the contemporary trend of sanitized Hollywood sexiness entitled "Everyone is Beautiful and No One is Horny." Think about the 50 Shades of Grey movies. There's plenty of smut and whipping and stuff that in theory is sexy, but is the movie actually sexy? Maybe it's because I'm speaking from a queer, non-male gaze, but a lot of the kinky scenes just feel awkward and almost clinical. Compare that with the 1995 film The Perez Family, which stars Molina and features a very erotic scene between him and Marissa Tomei, which makes No Way Home all the more funny.
Thirsty?
Well, yes, I am thirsty.
Oh, he's thirsty, alright. The missing ingredient in films like 50 Shades is, I think, sensuality. There can be more sensuality in a man wiping a woman down with a wet cloth than an actual BDSM scene. Now, the Spider-Man films don't have on-screen sex scenes, and they don't need them. Yet there still is sensuality about Doc Ock that draws people in. The scene in First Avenger where they unveil Chris Evans's oiled-up rockin' bod is awesome, and he's a fine specimen and all, but somehow Alfred Molina bare-chested under his leather coat, calmly threatening to flay someone alive is just hotter. And I think we also need to unpack why it's bewildering to some that a fat man could be attractive. I co-host a podcast with Sarah Ezzat of the Fat Culture Critic called Real Fat People, where we discuss depictions of fatness in media. And the sad reality is that fat people are often framed as unattractive and undesirable. But the fact is, fat is just a body type. To claim that fat people are categorically incapable of being desirable is incorrect. I'm not attracted to Doc Ock in spite of his fatness. I'm attracted to Doc Ock because he's fat. I like the whole package. I like how physically imposing he is and that he's unapologetically confident, when so many fat characters are portrayed as self-hating and insecure. Self-assuredness, true self-assuredness, not arrogance that thinly shrouds insecurity, is 1,000,000 times more attractive than a perfectly sculpted gym body. And it's this denial of the potential attractiveness of fat bodies and the fear of admitting that we can be attractive that leads to there being a lack of fat love interests in media. If only someone would write a romance novel with the love interest being a hot, fat supervillain. Foreshadowing is a literary device. Okay, time to come clean. This video isn't just about the hotness of Doc Ock. It's also promotion for my book. Yes, I, Ren the Barbarian, wrote and published a novel. A short, self-published novel, but a published novel nonetheless. It's called Courting Danger, and it's about a girl who is best friends with a superhero, but she ends up falling for his arch-nemesis. It totally is not a spectacular auto X self-insert fanfic with the names changed. It's not your typical dark romance. If anything, it's more of a rom-com with a bit of action sprinkled in here and there. I like to describe it as Spider-Man meets Beauty and the Beast. It's got a ton of romantic tropes like forced proximity and hurt comfort, and there's plenty of interesting queer side characters along with the main romantic couple. It's a modest little story, but I'm pretty proud of it, and I'm hoping that it's the first of many books that I write and publish. If you'd like to support me, Courting Danger is available on Amazon as an ebook or paperback for dirt cheap. I'll leave a link in the description below. If you are under 18, please do not buy this book. It's made for adults. Thank you for letting me gush over my big titty octo husband for 15 odd minutes. If you liked what you saw here, you can help me out by liking, leaving a comment, and or subscribing to my channel. You can also check out my Patreon or follow me on social media, the links to which will also be below. Shout out to my lovely patrons who continue to fund my nonsense. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.